Hello and welcome to the BIS Talks on Educational Organization Management System as provided in IS ISO 21001. Education makes people easy to lead but difficult to drive, easy to govern but impossible to enslave. Education is a better safeguard of liberty than standing army. And so does the Standard for Educational Organization Management System or EOMS. IS ISO 21001 for Educational Organization Management System is the standard for educational organizations and other learning service providers. It specifies operational processes for educational services and focuses on best practices such as strategy, social responsibility, design of curriculum, delivering and evaluating courses. This standard can be applied to all educational organizations that provide, share, and facilitate the construction of knowledge to learners through teaching, training, or research. I know you are now curious to know what this standard is all about, and I am no less excited to take you through this wonderful document. Let me urge Shri Sanjay Pant, DDG Standardization BIS, to flag off this detour.
First of all, I would like to share with you that IS ISO 21001 2018 for Educational Organizations Management System is based on the process approach and is applicable to any educational organization irrespective of the type, size or method of delivery used. Secondly, the implementation methodology is based on the PDCA cycle: plan, do, check and act. Each phase has a number of steps which are further divided into activities and tasks. This standard is based on certain principles such as visionary leadership, engagement of people, process approach, continual improvement.
Let us hear from one of our experts of the subject, Ms. Aarti Khosla, to know about the importance of this standard.
Every organization wants to develop the 21st century skills in the learner. That's the vision, that's the aim. And keeping this aim in mind, the standard was developed. So that if the learner is moving within countries, everywhere he goes, he gets the same standard of education. Most importantly, when the child gets into the corporate world, even his regular professional development activities that are being taken care of by the L&D verticals of the corporates, he's getting the same consistent quality at all the levels. So that is probably the vision, so that we have a common tool, a common management tool that can be used by each and every vertical of the education sector, and the nation can ensure same quality education at all the levels.
Let us talk to the Head of Services Sector Department to understand the scope of the standard.
IS ISO 21001 follows the high level of structure prescribed by ISO for management system standards, which consist of 10 clauses. First clause defines the scope of the standard and specifies the requirements for management system for educational organizations. EOMS. When such an organization needs to demonstrate its ability to support the acquisition and development of competence through teaching, learning or research. Then aim to enhance satisfaction of the learner, other beneficiaries, staff through the effective applications of EOMS, including the processes for improvement of the system and assurance of conformity to the requirement of learner and other beneficiaries. All the requirements of this standard are generic and intended to be applicable to any organization that uses a curriculum to support the development of competence through teaching, learning or research, regardless of the type, size or method of delivery. The way of providing services by a learning provider is constantly changing, and now it is moved to a stage where the learner and the education provider work together for improved learning. IS ISO 21001 applies to all the educational organizations that provide, share and facilitate the construction of knowledge to learner through teaching, training or research.
If we talk about the principle of EOMS IS ISO 21001, Let us hear about these principles from the officer of BIS.
The Educational Organizations Management System, that is EOMS, is guided by 11 principles which are as follows. First, focus on learners and other beneficiaries. The primary objective of the EOMS is to meet the requirement of the learners and other beneficiaries and also exceeding their expectations. Second, visionary leadership. Visionary leadership involves engaging all learners and other beneficiaries in creating, defining and implementing the organization's mission, vision and objectives. Third, engagement of people. It is crucial for the organizations that all individuals involved are competent, empowered and engaged in delivering values. Fourth, process approach. It focuses on interlinking the various business operations to achieve predictable and expected outcomes. The process approach aims to establish a coherent system and enables the organization to optimize its performance. Fifth, improvement. We all know that every organization needs to have an ongoing focus on continual improvement to operate successfully. Sixth, evidence-based decisions. This means that the decisions which are based on the analysis and evaluation of data and informations are more likely to produce desired result. Seventh, relationship management. Relationship management plays a crucial role in achieving sustained growth. Organizations need to manage their relationships with interested parties such as providers for sustained success. Eighth, social responsibility. This principle states that an educational institution is responsible for the impacts of its processes and decisions. It aims to improve an organization's social, economical, and environmental performance by adopting transparent and ethical behaviors. Ninth, accessibility and equity. Every successful organizations are inclusive, flexible, transparent and accountable, addressing the individual and special needs, interests, abilities and the background of the learners. 10th is ethical conduct in education. Ethical conduct pertains to creating an ethical professional environment within the organization where all interested parties are treated equitably, conflicts of interest are avoided, and activities are conducted for the benefit of the society. The last, 11th is data security and protection. The organization establishes an environment where all interested parties can interact with the educational organizations with full confidence that they maintain control over the use of their own data and that the educational organization treat their data with appropriate care and confidentiality. After having the clear idea about these principles, the question comes in mind that which organizations need an ISO 21001. Answer is any organizations who wants to provide quality education as well as equal education for every learners.
Now we'll be looking into the major requirements of ISO 21001 for establishing educational organization management system, clause-wise, and the sub-clauses involved in it. Let us hear from our officers of Service Sector Department.
After specifying the scope, this Indian standard talks about the context of the organization under which the following sub-clauses include understanding the organization and its context. The subclause states that the organization shall determine its external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose, its social responsibility, its strategic direction, and that affects its ability to achieve the intended outcome of its EOMS. Understanding the needs and expectation of the interested parties due to their effect or potential effect on the organization's ability to consistently and sustainably provide educational product and services. The organization shall determine the interested parties that are relevant to the EOMS and the relevant requirement of these interested parties. These interested parties shall include learners, other beneficiaries, or staff of the organization. Determining the scope of the management system for educational organization, the organization shall determine the boundaries and applicability of the EOMS to establish its scope. When determining the scope, the organization shall consider the external and internal issues that were referred before, the requirements of relevant interested parties, and the product and services of the organization. The next clause talks about leadership, under which the following subclauses include leadership and commitment. This subclause states that top management should be accountable for the effectiveness of the EOMS, and they should ensure that the educational organization policy and educational organization objectives are established and are compatible with the context and strategic direction of the organization. Focus on learners and other beneficiaries. This subclause states that top management should also be directly responsible for ensuring that the need and expectation of the learners and other beneficiaries are determined, understood, and consistently met, as evidenced by monitoring their satisfaction and educational progress. Next is policy. The subclause states that the top management should establish, review, and maintain an educational organization policy that supports the educational organization mission and vision, and which is appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization. This educational organization policy should be available and be maintained as documented information, and it should also be communicated, understood, and applied within the organization. Coming to the next subclause, which is on organization roles, responsibilities, and authorities, the top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated within the organization. A proper delegation of authority should be established for ensuring that the EOMS conforms to the requirement of this Indian standard, and that the educational organization policy is understood and implemented.
Clause 6 talks about the planning, under which the following subclause include actions to address risks and opportunities. The organization should plan action to address the risks and opportunities, how to integrate and implement the actions into its EOMS processes, and also evaluate the effectiveness of these actions, setting objectives and planning how to achieve them. The educational organization objective should be consistent with the educational organization policy. Eventually, while planning how to achieve its objectives, the organization should outline that what will be done in its strategic plan and what resources will be required. Planning of changes, where the organization determines the need for changes to the EOMS. The changes shall be carried out in a planned manner, considering the purpose of the changes and their potential consequences, and also the integrity of EOMS.
Now comes the do part of the standard, which is deliberated by the officers of MSCD.
The next clause, that is clause 7 of the standard, outlines about the support requirements. The major requirements under this clause are: first, resources. The organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the EOMS. This should be done in such a way that they sustainably enhance the engagement of learners and their satisfaction. This can be achieved through activities that improve learning and promote the achievement of learning outcomes. Similarly, the organization shall also take into account the need of the learners with special needs and shall ensure that a variety of accessibility requirements are anticipated and addressed. Second comes the human resources. Human resources shall include the staff employed by the organization, the volunteers and the interns working with or contributing to the organization as applicable. The organization shall also maintain documented information on the processes used for the recruitment or selection and also retain the documented information on the results of the recruitments. Next is facilities. The organization is responsible for determining, providing and maintaining safe facilities that are suitable for human resources to support and enhance the development of learners' competence. It should also ensure that the dimension of the facilities are adequate to meet the requirements of those who use them. Now comes the environment for the operation of educational processes. The organization shall determine, provide and maintain a suitable environment to promote the overall well-being of relevant interested parties by considering both physical as well as the psychological factors. Another important requirement in this clause is monitoring and measuring resources. The organization shall determine and provide the resources needed to ensure valid and reliable results when monitoring and or measuring is used to verify the conformity of product and services to requirements. The organization shall also ensure that the resources provided are suitable for the specific type of monitoring and measurement activities being undertaken. This means the resources are adequate to the target, the type, method of education delivery and the duration of the educational services. Last but not the least is competence part. The organization shall determine the necessary competence of persons doing work under its control that affect its educational organization performance and ensure that these persons are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training and experience.
Let us understand the Clause 8 of the standard.
The most important functional clause of this Indian standard is Clause 8, Operational Planning and Control. This clause states that the organization shall plan, implement and control the processes that needs to meet requirement for the provision of educational product and services and to implement the action by determining the requirement for the educational products and services, establishing the criteria for the processes, determining the resources needed to achieve conformity to the educational products and services requirements. Control of externally provided processes, product and services is the next subclause, which states that the organization shall determine and apply criteria for the evaluation, selection, monitoring of performance and re-evaluation of external providers based on their ability to provide processes or products and services in accordance with the requirement of this Indian standard. And the organization shall also retain the documented information of these activities and any necessary action arising from the evaluations. The next subclause is on monitoring, measurement, analysis, evaluation and their results. Finally, this clause talks about monitoring, measurement, analysis, evaluation and their result to define the operational part of this Indian standard.
Clause 9 of this standard states that the organization shall evaluate the educational organization performance and the effectiveness of the EOMS. People should be given an opportunity to critically review their own work in reflective and constructive manner as a contribution to their improvement. Internal audit: the organization shall conduct internal audits at planned intervals to provide information on whether the EOMS conforms to the organization's own requirement for its EOMS and the requirement of this document, and EOMS is effectively implemented and maintained. Management review: top management shall review the organization's EOMS and the strategy at planned intervals at least once per year and update them accordingly to ensure its continuing suitability, adequacy and effectiveness. The management review shall include consideration of the status of actions from the previous management reviews and changes in external and internal issues that are relevant to the EOMS. The last clause that states about the improvement: when a non-conformity occurs, the organization shall react to the non-conformity and as applicable and take action to control and correct it, review the effectiveness of any corrective action taken, make changes to the EOMS if necessary. Continual improvement: in the end, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy and effectiveness of the EOMS, taking into account relevant research and best practices. It shall consider the results of analysis and evaluation and the outputs from management review to determine if there are needs or opportunities that shall be addressed as a part of continual improvement.
Organization desirous of obtaining system certification from BIS has to follow subsequent steps illustrated by Deputy Director General, Management System Certification, BIS.
Organizations desirous of seeking certification from BIS have to follow the following simple steps. Implement the requirements of the concerned management system standard in the context of the organization. Develop various types of documents like the policy, the procedure, objectives, targets, external and internal issues, operational risks, etc. as required by the standard. After that, these documents have to be got approved from the authorized persons and circulate it to all departments within the organizations to create awareness. Once the awareness is created, then you have to complete one cycle of internal audit of all departments, which will definitely include top management, and one cycle of management review to ascertain that standard is in place and is giving the intended results. After the above process is completed and the organization feels that they are ready, submit the application through BIS portal. After submission of the application, the concerned regional management system coordinating officer will guide you about the subsequent stages towards certification.
Although Management Systems Coordinating Officer will guide about the subsequent stages towards certification, still, let us understand briefly about the further course of action.
The concerned regional office processes the application for grant of license. This includes audit of applicant in 2 stages, which we call Stage 1 audit and Stage 2 audit. These audits are carried out to gain sufficient evidence related to conformity to the management system implemented by the organization. Now, Stage 1 audit. The purpose of Stage 1 audit is to assess the organization's preparedness for the Stage 2 audit. During Stage 1 audit, following things are verified: scope and boundary of the implemented management system, types of services covered, process involved, and relevant statutory and regulatory requirements. B. Confirmation of the information submitted in the application. C. A review of the documented information of the implemented management system, that is, documented processes and procedures, policies, etc. After satisfactory actions are taken against findings of Stage 1 audit, if any, with supportive evidence, Stage 2 audit is planned. Stage 2 audit. The purpose of Stage 2 audit is to evaluate implementation, including effectiveness of the management system to be certified. Following activities are undertaken during Stage 2 audit: information and evidence about conformity to all requirements of management systems under certification, performance monitoring, measuring, reporting and reviewing against performance objectives and targets, ability to meet statutory, regulatory and contractual requirement, operational control of the processes, etc. Audit of all departments as per schedule is carried out, relevant evidences are collected and verified. If any non-conformity is observed, the same is discussed with auditee, system coordinator and communicated to the auditee for taking appropriate action with a time frame of 45 days as per BIS guidelines. Once the audit activities are completed, Deputy Director General of the region takes decision to grant the license to the applicant. The license is granted for 3 years, during which there will be 2 surveillance audits conducted at an interval of 1 year. BIS follows a robust certification process utilizing competent and experienced auditors. Over the years, as the management system stabilizes, the organization can make use of the management system as a tool to improve their own system.
Certification from National Standards Body of India. All management system certification are operated in accordance with the standard ISO IEC 17021 Part 1. Ensures objectivity, confidentiality and impartiality in the certification process. Professional, competent, qualified and ethical auditors in all the technical areas and sectors. Certification imparts confidence to the interested party during tenders and bids. Ensures improvement of processes on continuous basis.
We look forward to a day when all the educational organizations, including schools, colleges and universities that are involved in imparting formal education, will implement the EOMS standard ISO 21001 and get certification and make their institution a better place for learners.